Next up, we have FEDT, supporting
FET.
FET?
FIT.
FIT.
Yeah.
The D
Danish.
is silent.
It's a Danish word.
Oh, okay, all right. It's supporting experiment design and execution in HCI fabrication research, and this will be presented by Professor Valkyrie Savage from University of Copenhagen.
Thank you, Tisha. So I'm going to talk about fabrication research itself and one way that I think we can all improve it. I love fab research, you love fab research. Here's some from UIST last year that I'm one of the authors on, so I'm going to pick on this paper a little bit. Rapso contributed a new machine that lets you embed fibers into objects to make new kinds of functional stuff. So let's say that I'm a fab researcher and I want to build my own derivative of this machine, but I want to make sure that it works at least as well as the one that got published here. So how well did that one work? I can see that there's an experiment here in section 5 that says that they designed some geometry and they sliced it with Cura. They used the generic PLA settings. Then they printed out the objects and pulled on them until they broke somehow. It also mentions 3 kinds of fibers that they tried and different attachment methods. But I still have some questions. So how many times did they try this? What are these recommended parameters? And what if I use bamboo slicer instead of Cura slicer? At the end of the day, it could be hard for me to figure out whether, if I want to replicate this study, it's actually good enough. So we wanted to take away a little bit of that pain and a few of those questions and support the clear communication and execution of experiments in fabrication research. For inspiration, we looked at tools that support study design, execution, and reporting for user studies or in chemical labs. But with fabrication research, there's sort of this interesting dance of humans and machines handing stuff off to each other that goes beyond what's been done before. Our first step was thus to actually define what it is that we want to support. We needed to extract a workflow that's common to all of the research in fabrication. So we started with this workflow, which describes how one goes from a design to a 3D printed object. I know that not all HCI fab research is 3D printing, but we figured we'd start here. So you do some CAD to get a design, then you do some CAM to orient the part and slice it. You end up with a tool path which you just send to a 3D printer. So through reviewing a collection of papers from Kai and UIST that leverage different fabrication technologies and techniques, we adjusted the workflow a little bit to create the interactive object fabrication workflow. You still, across all the systems that we looked at, you do some design and then you do some tool pathing and some fabrication. But there's also a wide range of materials that get used, as we've been seeing, so we need to configure our machines to accept what we're working with, acrylic, wood, biomaterials, whatever. There's often something that comes after, so we post-process to polish printed lenses, or we insert electronics that we're not able to knit, and then we usually have users do something. They touch or assemble the stuff. But these stages aren't just defined by the actions that are taking place. There's also some intention from the researchers that go in at each of these points. And there's also some kind of artifact that each of them produces from each step that gets carried on to the next step. So to test it out, we applied this workflow to a few papers. Robiot, a paper that does 3D printing for making objects that move in a specific way, basically follows the exact steps in the workflow. You pick the motion, you design it, you get an STL, blah, blah, blah. But we also highlight how weird this workflow gets. So in Nitpicking Textures, a paper that enables texture tiling for knitting, the objects can actually be manufactured from the same design, either by hand if converted to knit-speak, or by machine if converted to knit out. We also saw that steps don't always neatly separate. So in Lamifold, a laser cutting paper that focused on making flat pack mechanisms, fabrication actually involves interleaved post-processing steps where the researcher adds and removes material from the laser cutter bed over time. We saw various other ways in which steps can blend or repeat. But our goal here was to describe these workflows so that we know what our eventual support tool needs to support. It turns out it will need a lot of flexibility to achieve all those different variations. As a side note, we also see this workflow as a way for all of us to highlight our contributions. Being able to point out our new system targets geometry manipulation, or our new technique interleaves fabrication and post-processing helps us to organize the field. So now we want to help researchers doing projects like these to design, perform, and communicate their experiments. Naturally, as UIST design tools people, we decided to make a design tool. It needs to offer precision, the ability to describe exactly what was done. It needs to have comprehensiveness to describe all the various kinds of experiments people do. It needs to be extensible to add more possibilities as the field evolves. And it needs to be analyzable so that we can actually understand the experiments without running them. Thinking about these desired constraints, we decided that we would base our tool on an embedded domain-specific language, which fulfills all of these requirements nearly trivially. So we thus present FEDT, the Fabrication Experiment Design Tool. FEDT's DSL enables specifying and running experiments. Here's a FEDT program for a basic experiment looking at the shrinkage of a printed cube. We make some cubes with different infills and see what their effect is on the X, Y, and Z axis dimensions. We also make 5 copies of each cube because we're proper scientists. And our decorator up here at the top allows FEDT to rewrite and analyze what's going on in the experiment we've described. One type of rewriting, which we call design mode, generates a flowchart that represents the granular steps that we have to do this experiment. So you can see here, we've got these 3 major branches, which represent those 3 infill patterns I talked about. And when we look at one infill pattern, we can see that there are sub-branches representing those 5 repetitions. And for each repetition, we repeat our measurements for the X, Y, and Z axes. So the same FEDT program is a snippet of Python code, and it's a flowchart when we're in design mode, but it can also be run on the command line in execute mode, where it prompts users to actually do those steps, and it makes calls to software and machines and so forth. And here, of course, it generates derivative files like G-code CSV files for recording the data that's structured and specified in the program itself. I am really not able to go into detail in this talk, but briefly we support modes, as I talked about, the design and execute. We also have different loop control structures with randomness and determinism, which researchers can use to capture dependency and decisions between steps. So parallel is when I manipulate different objects in any order. Series is when I subject a single object to sequential manipulations. While captures an unknown number of repetitions, as always. And shuffle allows for randomness in execution and determinism in design. FEDT can also track real and virtual objects and their associated features and embedded design decisions. It has different methods for measuring. And since we're embedded in Python, we can do everything that Python does, call APIs, run in notebooks, et cetera, et cetera. After building FEDT, we wanted to determine whether it could describe and run experiments, as well as get thoughts about it from varied fabrication researchers. I see some of you in the room, by the way. We used FEDT to model 42 fabrication experiments from 10 different papers, which leverage varied techniques and technologies. We went through the papers and tried writing a description in FEDT for each experiment that we came across. We were able to model all the experiments that we encountered, and we used every feature that we included in the language. We then spoke to the original researchers from these 10 papers. We described our project to them and asked them to help us correct the experiments that we had written up. It turns out that we made a lot of mistakes, which we categorized into different types. So first, we made a lot of incorrect assumptions. In this experiment of the BlowFab paper, we guessed that 4 objects were fabricated, but it turned out that 1 was fabricated and not pictured. Second, we included insufficient details. So for example, in these design mold grow experiments, the researchers wanted us to include more on sanitizing the substrate for the molding process. Third, simplifications. Here, researchers agreed that we had captured what was written in the paper, but actually they performed a slightly different protocol for practical reasons. So for example, in FabHydro, the paper describes printing a large collection of cubes to cut open on different days. But in reality, the printer couldn't manufacture so many cubes at once, so the cubes were printed over a series of days and cut open after the appropriate numbers of days had passed. Finally, we sometimes modeled experiments when the researchers thought that they were demonstrations. So for example, in Electropop, the authors report time to inflation for their mylar shapes, which they intended as suggestions to give intuition rather than as formal experiments. Some of these kinds of errors would have been trivially corrected if the researchers had written the descriptions themselves, while the simplification error begs the question of what is the difference between what we need to communicate about an experiment and what we actually need to know to run it. FEDT helps make this kind of discussion possible. The researchers also gave us lots of reflections about the tool, which you can read about in the paper. We further used FEDT to execute replications of a laser cutter experiment from Circwood and a 3D printer experiment from GID, all the way from geometry to fabrication. There is a lot more about this in our many pages of appendix. There's also a lot to discuss about this topic. Is a DSL even the right approach to solving this problem? Does writing a clear procedure automatically make something replicable? Any of us who have tried to move one procedure from one machine to another knows that this can be tricky. I'm happy to talk or argue about any of these things this week. There's also lots of possible future work. It would be great to define experiments based on direct manipulation of the flowcharts themselves, or to let users interact with the flowchart and do any valid step instead of following next ones on the command line. This could be supported with programming language techniques like choreography to ensure objects are ready when they're required, or partial execution to help with machine scheduling. We're happy that even the relatively simple PL concepts in our current version allow expressing quite diverse experiments. But now I'd like to invite you to join us. Please challenge our workflow with your contributions, include FET specifications for your experiments in your future fab papers to make reviewers happy and make replication easy, and add instructions for your machines to our library via GitHub pull request. Thanks, and I'm happy to take questions.
All right, any questions?
Really cool work. I always had this problem explaining to students what kind of experiments we have to do. And when I was a student, I struggled to figure out which aspects we have to study in a system. So there are, researchers always build different systems. Is this approach extensible? Like people can extend this approach and contribute back to FED?
Yeah,
Did I
for
pronounce
sure.
it correctly?
God, that was so loud, I'm sorry. Yes, I think it absolutely is. I think that because it's a language, it can express all kinds of different stuff. It's designed to sort of go outside of the things that we've tried already, although we did find huge diversity in the experiments, even in those 10 papers. So yes, my hope is that people will try it. If it breaks, we can always fix it together to make it, even bigger and express more stuff. But starting to talk about this and formalize it to help students and other collaborators and people joining our community understand what we do, I think is really important. I see a hand in the back too. Jingy is also very loud if you just let them yell.
It's true, but not, oh my God, this mic is loud. Not this loud. I really love this work. This is so awesome to see. And I was so interested in your slide of like the assumptions that we made incorrectly. I actually feel like you didn't make any wrong assumptions. The researchers just didn't write what they actually did in the paper. So I feel like I kind of have a values question for you, which is like, do you have a stance on this? Like, should we be honestly reporting our experiments even if it makes, the evaluation section messier or like our science less reproducible? I feel like part of your inherent contribution of FET is like, oh, we want to have more replicable like experiments and things. So yeah, I just want to hear like, where do you stand on this?
So I feel like part of my opinion is that we want to be able to replicate the procedure of stuff, even though we're not always going to get the same results on stuff, because the real world is just messy and that's how it is. But even starting with like, what did you literally do, I think is a good place. I also think that, oh my goodness, I had an answer to the second part of this question as well. Yeah, I think that we should include more appendices in our UIST papers, even though I know that's a very hot take. And that including these kinds of descriptions, not necessarily in the experiment section, but like in the detailed, like supplemental type stuff would be great.